In the heart of Idomaland, where culture and tradition intertwine like the roots of the ancient Iroko tree, there lived a young woman named Amoka. She was the pride of her family, a beauty whose allure drew admiration and envy alike. Her eyes, as sharp as they were bright, often scanned the horizon beyond their small village, Okoluj, dreaming of a life far grander than the one she knew. To her, marriage was not just a union but an escape, a stepping stone to a world of affluence and power. Her mother, Momankechi, constantly reminded her of the values of marrying a man of good character, but Amoka, with her head filled with dreams of grandeur, dismissed these words as relics of an outdated tradition. It was during one of the village and #039's vibrant market days, where the air was filled with the aroma of fresh spices and the hum of lively bargaining, that Amoka and #039's fate began to shift. Amid the colorful stores and loud chatter, a tall, handsome stranger in a spotless agbada appeared before her. His name was Chuka, and he exuded wealth and sophistication. His smile was as charming as his words were smooth, and within minutes, he had Amoka entranced. He spoke of his estate in Lokoja, his fleet of cars, and his luxurious lifestyle, a life that seemed plucked straight from Amoka's dreams. Over the following weeks, Chuka courted Amoka with relentless charm, showering her with gifts that set tongues wagging in the village. Gold jewelry, imported perfumes, and even a sleek phone, a rarity in Okoluj, were all laid at her feet. The elders murmured their concerns about this sudden romance, but Amoka was blind to their warnings. Her mother's pleas to be cautious fell on deaf ears, as Amoka declared that her destiny lay with Chuka. Their wedding was a spectacle that the village had never seen before. Drummers played energetic beats, women ululated with joy, and the bride price Chuka paid was so extravagant that it left the elders astounded. Dressed in resplendent attire, Amoka felt like a queen as she left the village with Chuka, her heart brimming with excitement for the new life awaiting her. Arriving in Lokoja, Amoka was awestruck by Chuka's mansion. It was everything he had promised and more: marble floors, golden chandeliers, and a sprawling garden that seemed to stretch forever. At first, life seemed perfect. Chuka introduced her to his circle of wealthy friends and ensured she had the best clothes, food, and luxuries money could buy. However, the paradise soon began to crumble. Chuka's demeanor changed after the wedding. His once loving words turned into commands, and his charming smile was replaced by a cold, calculating stare. Amoka quickly realized she was forbidden from leaving the house without permission. The staff treated her with a mix of fear and pity, whispering behind her back about the boss's unpredictable temper. The mansion, though grand, began to feel like a gilded cage. One evening, while wandering the house out of boredom, Amoka stumbled upon a locked door at the far end of the corridor. Her curiosity was piqued, but when she asked Chuka about it later, his reaction was unsettling. His face darkened, and his voice turned icy as he warned her never to go near the room. "It's my workspace," he said curtly. "There's nothing for you there." The encounter left her uneasy, but her curiosity only grew stronger. One fateful night, while Chuka was out attending a meeting, Amoka decided to uncover the mystery behind the locked door. She had found a spare key hidden in his study earlier and now held it tightly in her trembling hands. The moment she unlocked the door and stepped inside, her world shifted irreversibly. The room was dimly lit by flickering red candles, and the walls were lined with shelves holding strange artifacts, animal skulls, jars filled with unknown substances, and carvings of fearsome deities. In the center of the room sat a clay pot surrounded by chalk-drawn symbols, cowrie shells, and other items she couldn't recognize. But what froze her in place was the photograph of herself pinned to a blackened calabash. Her heart raced as dread seeped into her veins. She stumbled out of the room, her mind reeling with questions. When Chuka returned later that night, she confronted him. At first, he tried to dismiss her concerns, but her persistence broke through his facade. His revelation was more horrifying than she could have imagined. "Amoka," he began, his voice eerily calm, "you were chosen because your spirit holds great power. A spiritualist told me that marrying you would guarantee my success and protection. The rituals in that room are what keep my wealth intact." Amoka felt as though the ground beneath her had crumbled. Her marriage, which she believed was her path to happiness and freedom, was nothing more than a carefully orchestrated trap. Chuka's wealth was tied to dark rituals, and she was at the center of it all. Desperate to escape, Amoka reached out to her childhood friend Ifani, who worked as a mechanic in Lokoja. Over several secret phone calls, they hatched a plan to get her out of the mansion. On the agreed night, while Chuka was away, Ifani arrived with a borrowed car. Amoka packed a small bag and slipped out of the house unnoticed. As they sped away, she felt a mix of fear and relief. But their escape was short-lived. Moments later, a pair of headlights appeared in their rearview mirror. Chuka had discovered her absence and was now chasing them with a fury that seemed almost supernatural. The high-speed chase was terrifying. Chuka's car rammed into theirs several times, forcing Ifani to swerve dangerously. Finally, on a deserted stretch of road, Chuka forced them to stop. He emerged from his car wielding a machete, his face contorted with rage. "You think you can leave me?" he roared, advancing toward Amoka. Ifani tried to intervene, but Chuka overpowered him with ease. Just as Amoka thought her fate was sealed, the sound of gunshots pierced the air. A group of local vigilantes had been patrolling the area and came to investigate the commotion. Chuka was subdued and handed over to the authorities, while Amoka and Ifani were taken to safety. Amoka returned to Okuluj a changed woman. The villagers welcomed her back with open arms, offering comfort and support. Over time, she began to heal from the trauma, finding solace in the simplicity of village life. Ifani, who had risked everything to save her, remained by her side. Months later, he confessed his feelings for her, and Amoka, now wiser and humbled by her experiences, accepted his proposal. Their wedding was a modest but joyous affair, filled with genuine love and laughter. Amoka had learned the hard way that true happiness didn't lie in material wealth but in the warmth of a good heart and the safety of a loving home. However, as they danced under the moonlit sky, a shadowy figure watched from the edge of the village. Chuka had escaped custody, and his burning desire for revenge hinted that Amoka's story was far from over. The shadow lingered for only a moment before melting into the dense forest surrounding the village, leaving an uneasy chill in the air. Amoka, blissfully unaware of the danger that loomed, focused on her new life with Ifani. Their marriage was a testament to resilience and love, a fresh chapter where simplicity and genuine connection replaced the deceit and luxury of her past. Yet, in the back of her mind, she occasionally felt a prickling sensation, as though unseen eyes were always watching. Weeks turned into months, and life in Okuluj returned to its peaceful rhythm. Amoka and Ifani built a humble but happy home, working together on their small farm and sharing quiet evenings under the starlit sky. For the first time, Amoka felt grounded, her heart no longer burdened by unattainable dreams of wealth and status. However, fate was not done testing her. One night, as the village prepared for the annual Yam festival, a strange man arrived in Okuluj. Dressed in a dusty cloak, he moved through the market, asking discreet questions about Amoka. His face was unfamiliar, but his voice carried a venomous undertone that made those he questioned uneasy. Some whispered that he was a traveler seeking justice for an old grudge, others claimed he was a spiritualist hired to settle scores. Only Momankechi noticed the faint resemblance the man bore to Chuka. When Momankechi confronted Amoka about her unease, Amoka and #039's face paled. She confessed that she had heard rumors of Chuka and #039's escape but had hoped he would never return to Okuluj. Unquote, "You have to be careful, my daughter," unquote, Momankechi said gravely. Unquote, "A snake that slithers into the grass is still dangerous," unquote. As the Yam festival approached, the entire village gathered to celebrate. Music filled the air, and children ran through the square with wild abandon. Ifani performed his duties as one of the festival organizers, ensuring everyone had enough food and drink. Amoka, dressed in a vibrant Ankara gown, tried to immerse herself in the festivities, but a lingering sense of dread clung to her. That night, as the festivities wound down, a loud commotion erupted near the village square. People screamed and scattered as a masked figure appeared, wielding a machete. He pointed directly at Amoka and shouted, unquote, "You thought you could escape me, but I will have what is mine," unquote. Chaos ensued as villagers scrambled to protect Amoka. Ifeanyi rushed to her side, standing as a shield between her and the intruder. The masked figure lunged, but the villagers, armed with farming tools, quickly overpowered him. As they tore away his mask, gasps filled the air. It was indeed Chuka, his face twisted with hatred. Chuka was bound and taken to the village square, where the elders convened an emergency council. His crimes were laid bare before all, his manipulation, dark rituals, and the terror he had brought upon Amoka. The elders, guided by traditional customs, decided that Chuka must face judgment not only for his actions but also for disrupting the village and #039's peace. The spiritualist of the village, a revered old man named Pochoku, was called upon. He performed the ritual that would sever any lingering spiritual ties Chuka had to Amoka and the village. As the ceremony reached its peak, Chuka screamed, thrashing against his bindings as though unseen forces were pulling at his very soul. When it was over, he collapsed, his body limp and his voice reduced to a whisper. The elders banished him from Okoluj, warning that if he ever returned, the punishment would be far graver. Life slowly returned to normal, but Amoka remained haunted by the ordeal. Her dreams were filled with images of Chuka's twisted smile and the dark room she had discovered in his mansion. Ifeanyi, ever patient and loving, stood by her side, helping her rebuild her sense of safety. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Amoka and Ifeanyi sat outside their home, sharing a quiet meal. The air was filled with the sounds of crickets and the distant laughter of children. Amoka took a deep breath and said, unquote, I never thought I'd find peace after everything that happened. But with you, I feel whole again, unquote. Ifeanyi smiled, taking her hand in his. Unquote, the past is behind us, Amoka. We have each other, and that's all we need, unquote. But as they spoke, a cold breeze swept through the village, carrying with it a faint whisper that only Amoka could hear, unquote, this is not over, unquote. She froze, her heart pounding as she looked toward the forest, where shadows danced ominously. Ifeanyi noticed her unease and pulled her closer. What is wrong? He asked. Nothing, she lied, though her eyes remained fixed on the darkened trees. Though Chuka was gone, his shadow lingered, a reminder that some scars run deeper than time. But Amoka vowed to face whatever came next with the strength she had gained from her trials, knowing that true love and resilience could withstand even the darkest of storms.